mortgage in the Baltimore region. As early as 2009, Maryland Housing Secretary Raymond Skinner observed that we went through the first wave of foreclosure with subprime loans and other types of exotic products. And he went on to say, now we're seeing the employment situation and lack of income really hitting hard. That's end of quote. In addition, 3 years ago, as a direct result of this widespread loss of jobs, 1 out of every 8 Maryland borrowers was at least 30 days behind in his or her mortgage. Then, as now, perhaps 3 out of 10 Maryland borrowers owed more on their homes than those properties were worth. In response to this housing crisis, our 7th Congressional District Office has held 6 all-day foreclosure prevention sessions. And we're about to hold our 7th one in June. And by doing that, we have been able to keep over 5,000 Baltimore area homeowners in their homes. Yeah, y'all clap for that. That's serious. And we've been able to assist many of them in preserving their homes. In addition, our office has been able to assist many more distressed homeowners connect with their lenders and the mortgage modification assistance that has become available. And I'm very proud of that. And we also, probably one of the only offices out of the 435 members of Congress who dedicate 1.5 people to just dealing with foreclosure. Just dealing with foreclosure. And the reason why we do that is because I consider a house to be so very, very important. And while we have the best of times, we also have the worst of times. We have the best of times in that we have my friend, my colleague, and person who I supported 1,000,000%, President Barack Obama in the White House. At the same time, however, and sadly, we have seen probably the greatest transfer of wealth out of our African American communities and gone elsewhere. And when I think about even my block in Baltimore, and by the way, I live in the inner city. I'm one of the few Congress people that live in the inner city. I don't live, I ain't living close to the inner city. I'm right there on the Do the Right Thing block. Yeah, ready now. I'm in the block where they knock on your door at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's Cummings. And you got $1, man, you got $1, say a quarter. I gotta say this. About a year or so ago, I'll never forget, I was about to go and give a speech, and so there's some new guys in the block, and one of them came up to me and said, "Mr. Cummings, man, we respect you, man. We respect you so much, man, that we gonna watch your house." To see you about to leave. Well, all we want to know is when you're coming back. We want to get full protection the whole time. I said, I'm coming right back. But on a serious note, ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today to reaffirm our commitment to a fundamental American principle. And that principle is that every American family deserves to live in a safe, an adequate and affordable home. You, ladies and gentlemen, are the experts in our movement to make this principle of affordable housing a reality. You know the economics and the financial challenges of meeting this challenge as well, if not better, than I do. So during our few minutes today, I'm not going to get lost in all the tall grass of national policy. What I do seek to do is reinforce in your minds this morning the human dimension of this housing crisis. I'll begin on a personal note because home ownership is above all a human imperative as well as an economic policy. My story is a very interesting one, and I'd like to share it with you right now. My mother and father hailed from Manning, South Carolina. Many years ago, they came to Baltimore because they were in search of opportunity. And the opportunity that you may think is what they were looking for is not the one you may guess when you first think about it. The opportunity they were looking for was a way to make sure that their 7 children, who were not even born yet, could get an education. They had been deprived of an education down in South Carolina, so they came here with that in mind. So I'll never forget, our first house was a little apartment. This is as far back as I can remember, I was about 3. And I'll never forget that we lived in that apartment, and it was over a popcorn store. And you can imagine what it was like getting up at night, trying to go to the bathroom, and hearing those mice scamper around the floor. I can still remember that. It is one of my earliest memories, and I'm going to bring you back to that in a moment. Our next house was a house that was in South Baltimore, and that was a 2-bedroom house, very small house, and we had 1 bath, and there were 7 children and 2 adults. You can imagine what the morning was like there. You had to get up about 2 o'clock. Wait your turn. But then something miraculous happened. My mother, who was a domestic, and my father, who was a laborer, decided that we were going to move. And I'll never forget, my mother said, "Children, we are not going to be eating meat anymore." And it wasn't because we were going to be fashionable or was in vogue. It's just that she wanted to save the money that we would normally buy chicken and beef and whatever with. She wanted to save that money. And it's a very emotional thing for me now when I look back on it, because what they were saying was that they were willing to sacrifice. So my father, who did not believe in banks, because he could not understand, why you had to have somebody keeping your money. And so he had a cigar box. And my father was truly a leader. He gathered his family around and he said, "Look, we're going to save for this house, and we're going to get a house. And it's going to be a much better house than the one we're living in." So we all joined in. He didn't ask us to. My sister, Retha, she did a lot of sewing, so she would sew people's clothes and hem their dresses and whatever. I had an Afro newspaper route, and I also delivered groceries to people. And I also had an Uncle Bell, who sold wood. He would get wood from people who knocked down houses. He would strip the paint off of them and chop them up and sell wood in these baskets. Like the wood that you might see people use it for their fireplaces now. Back then people had wood stoves. It was part of my job to deliver wood. My oldest brother, he had a paper route too, and he made his money delivering groceries too. And so, but the reason why I'm telling you that part about is that we wanted to surprise our parents because we knew we would go into a new house. So we took all of our money to their surprise, and we saved it so that we could then buy gifts for the new house. Did your child would do that? And so, but I'm trying to make you understand how important this house was to us. That we gave up all our little money so that we could buy curtains and hamper and scatterbugs and ashtrays and all kinds of things for the house. And so we came up with a scheme where Miss Westbrook, who lived next door, she would hide all of our stuff for us, and then we went to surprise our mother and father at Christmas. And sure enough, at Christmas before we were going to move into our new house, we surprised our mother and father, and they were shocked. But then there came a time for us to move into the house, and I'll never forget, the first time I saw the house, I thought I would die. It was this beautiful house that had a lawn in the front, had a lawn in the back, had 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. Come on now. A breakfast room, a dining room, a small kitchen, a living room. And I cannot tell you how my self-esteem went up, knowing that I was going to live in what I thought at that time was a mansion. Some of y'all can relate. And then we had a backyard where my father, who was had been a sharecropper, he would take that small little piece of ground and he would plant all kinds of stuff. He used literally every square inch of that little piece of ground, planting collard greens and tomatoes and all kinds of stuff. And then, to make it real nice, he didn't want to use any of the ground for anything but food. So then he put some flower pots so my mama could have some flowers. So today, when he first saw it, when he showed it to us, my father, who was a preacher, and my mama, who was also a preacher, they knew that we could not move into the house unless we prayed for it and claimed it. So we went to the house, I never forget, after church, and we literally knelt down in front of the house. My father prayed for that house. He says, Lord, make sure we get this house. Don't let anything trip us up before we get the keys. And then I thought that God was not listening to us, because I felt a tap on my back as we were kneeling down, and turned around and there was the police. And they thought we were protesting, but we were praying. So we moved into the house. Why am I telling you this? Because when a person loses a house, it's just like them. It affects those children. It takes them out of their schools. Affects their self-esteem. They have nowhere to go. And one of the worst things that a child can experience is an environment which is not stable. And the stress that comes along with it. So we moved into the house and I was so excited. Could get up now at 6:30 to go to the bathroom. I mean, that may sound funny, but it's serious. Ladies, y'all know what I'm talking about. Could invite my friends over to have little birthday parties. Could do homework without rain coming in on my head. Did not have to light candles when it was damp, when it was raining. Because the old house, when it got raining, the house just smelled bad. But the new house, seemed like when the rain came, it smelled bad. I don't know whether it was me or it was just my attitude. But I tell you that because I want you to understand how important what you do is.